Right. So in the last session, we discussed about an example in context to the Spring Boot with microservices. Prior to that, even I have given some introduction about Spring Boot, followed by in connect to microservices and all everything we have discussed so far. Wherein today I'm going to discuss about the 2 points because as in when we are working on the Spring, we must be knowing about what exactly the problems we usually get if we are not using any Spring Boot, right? Without Spring Boot, what are the problems we are going to get? At the same time, what are the advantages because of the Spring Boot we are using? So these are the two major things we are going to discuss in today's session. Wherein, as we all know, as far as the Spring Boot itself is concerned, there are few problems which normally we have, because if we want to hunt for all the compatible libraries for the specific Spring versions and all, and adding them will be difficult, right? So if you are not using Spring Boot, this is one difficulty we face. At the same time, most of the times when we have to configure any kind of data sources or JDBC templates or any transaction managers, followed by any dispatcher servlets or handler mapping or view resolvers, etc. So this may have some difficulty when we wants to configure any of these mentioned ones, right? So if you want to configure all this would be something difficult for us. At the same time, we always should deploy always in the external server without any Spring Boot. That the disadvantage is that we always have to deploy in the external server, followed by this problem with any kind of Spring component scanning or any kind of auto writing, which is hard for us to see how all the components in the application are wired together, etc. So these are the major problems we may be having, right? So if you without Spring Boot, if you are not using Spring Boot, these were the problems if we are going for a plain Spring. Now, when it comes to the advantages, what are the advantages we see in context to the Spring Boot? The first one about this may be, this is really helpful for easy dependency management. At the same time, auto configuration for most of the commonly used built-in classes such as data sources, JDBC templates, or transaction templates, or dispatch servlets, or view resolvers, or handler mapping. All these were using customized properties, so that we need to enable auto configuration by adding either enable auto configuration or Spring Boot applications, etc. One more advantage is that embedded server, the Spring Boot starter web server automatically pulls the Spring Boot starter Tomcat, which starts with Tomcat as an embedded, so that we don't have to deploy applications on externally installed Tomcat servers, all that. At the same time, when it comes to the accurators and all, accurators looks inside of our bean dependencies. At the same time, auto configuration details, environment variables, configuration properties, memory usage, or garbage collections, web request, and data source usages. All these things are something essentially possible when we are working on the Spring Boot. So these are the advantages, and these are the, prior to that, I have explained about the problems without Spring Boot, and these are the advantages which normally we will be having, right? So when we are using Spring Boot in our application development, so in connect to microservices, etc., all that. So this is all about this session. If you have any questions, please go ahead.